Hello, and welcome to the Burn After Listening podcast. This is episode 4, and as promised, I am trying to be more consistent with releasing these podcasts, but the editing isn't great, and you might hear me hesitating a lot, so just sorry in advance if that's a bit challenging to hear, but I am going to do my best to flow through my topics with relative articulation, at least enough to not be going the entire time, right? I spoke a bit in my last podcast episode about finding witchcraft and spirituality and connecting with nature, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that today. And I by no means am an expert at this. It was one of those situations that called to me completely. But as I've looked and thought through the rest of my life, I've thought, actually, this has been happening. I've been in this sort of witchy state for a very, very long time. And I just wasn't acknowledging it or actively practicing. And it's taken me 28 years to realize that. And only now am I embracing it. So I suppose what I want to tell you about is my process and what has got me to this point and why this way of thinking resonates with me. So, yeah. So, by trade, I am a qualified psychotherapist. I'm trained as a drama therapist, which a lot of people don't know or have a misunderstanding of. So, it's not therapy for actors, exclusively for actors. It's not getting up and role playing with a whole group if you don't want to. It's so much more than that. And I've utilized meditation, tarot cards, candles, smells, sounds, lights. I've used all of those tools in my kit to treat and support people. And from my understanding, those things have been quite useful because they're bespoke, I bring in those resources depending on the client. And then in my childhood, I was super interested in Wiccanism and crystals and anything remotely witchy. I read the House of Night series, which is famous for, I think one of the authors is a Wiccan or something like that. So, and I had no idea about that until really recently, which was really cool. And then my roots, I'm half Indian, half Irish, and I think both of those have incredibly magical and sacred roots, all to do with the land and for example, in Celtic culture, there's Druidism, and a lot of what I derive my spirituality from is a sort of more Druid way of seeing the world. But I digress. As I was growing up, I experienced a lot of stuff, and I was later diagnosed with other mental health, whatever you want to call them, problems, issues, diagnoses, whatever. And I had to receive a lot of different types of therapeutic treatment to kind of get myself back on track. And that included DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy, which actually has some of its roots in Buddhist and Hindu practices, which I believe are very closely aligned to pagan practices in terms of the sense of energy, the beliefs around reincarnation, karmic justice, all these kinds of things. And I think there's just different tools we use. But in Wiccanism, divination is something that's always been the key difference, I think, between Wicca and other religions. I've never really been someone that's drawn to religion. In fact, I think a lot of people that know me would probably describe me as a religious cynic because I have been very disillusioned with the world for a pretty long time. And I think for me to have found this is huge. because I didn't think it was possible for me to find something that aligned with me so well. Aligned? What am I saying? There's a lot more to it that I still have to process, I still have to navigate, but it's very rapidly become a passion of mine and something that I'm dedicating a lot of my time to. So, spending a lot of time in my garden and learning plants, learning the magical properties of different trees and, medicinal, scientific properties of different plants as well, ancient beliefs about those things. So I've been really doing my research and studying. And I have to say, like, things like weaving and